Thank you for joining us as we continue our look at the SIMA web seminar series. Here's a quick routing tip by David Gallagher from the 2009 webinar, Planning Operational Success.
Always had a personal opinion. Everybody's got their own, as they say, but trying to, as much as possible, dedicate trucks to spread salt and not dedicate those trucks or utilize those trucks to plow as well as spread salt. And we'll talk about why here in a few minutes, just to plant that seed of thought in everyone's mind as we're going through routing here. From a plow route perspective, if I've got multiple smaller sites and I'm going to try to cover them with the same piece or same pieces of equipment throughout the course of an event, obviously we're going to assemble those routes based on necessary equipment, required time, and then within as tight of a geography as physically possible. I'm going to take a look at required time of completion and traffic considerations, and I'm typically going to plan my routes, particularly for daytime snowfalls, on a worst-case scenario. What am I going to have to do, and what is it going to take to get that piece or those pieces of equipment to those sites and through a full route at rush hour, at 7 o'clock in the morning or at 5 o'clock in the afternoon? And I'm going to work backwards from that point. I'm typically going to minimize or eliminate the trailering of any equipment to perform a route, particularly throughout the course of a day. If I've got a trailer or a piece of equipment after the close of a storm to do cleanup, that's one thing. But to keep sites clear, to keep sites open, I'm going to do everything I can not to have to load machines onto a trailer and haul them around throughout the course of an event. And just, the safety factors just don't outweigh the benefit from my personal perspective. As you generate those routes, recommend that we document those routes. And by document, that means on paper, not a mental documentation, and provide those paper route plans to multiple operators or potentially all of your operators. This is part of that contingency planning that we're going to talk about again in a little bit, but to make sure that as many people as possible know how to pull the strings, they know how to call the shots, and someone can fill in from an educated perspective and have at least a little bit of information about what it is they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it, if they should have to fill in for someone who falls behind or gets hurt or has a breakdown. Again, from that salting route perspective, I did just mention again, and I'm going to reiterate, always been a strong component, will continue to be a strong proponent of dedicating salt trucks to only salting. Too much possibility for damage to the spreader while they're out there plowing. Salting as a service should be, and typically is, a much higher gross margin service than plowing. And waiting till you're done plowing certain sites or at least percentages of sites before you get out there on the road or get out there on those sites and start applying de-icing material can typically put you in a position of, being a little bit behind that 8 ball and scrambling to get salt on those sites, before they're ready to open, or even, have to go back and do some more cleanup because you've got some additional accumulation on those sites because you didn't get material down on them when they were cleared initially. Salt from that perspective, time is a better advocate to producing results from de-icing applications than quantity in almost any case. There's exceptions to every rule, but in most cases, providing salt or providing de-icing material the adequate amount of time to work is to your advantage far more than simply trying to apply more. Applying more only gets it to work faster to a certain degree, and it's typically not a big enough difference to make it worth the amount of money that you've just spent over applying material to those sites. From those salt truck routes, when I have dedicated salt trucks, I try to route them in what I'll call a star pattern, which will give that salt truck driver the opportunity not only to see the fruits of their labor, because salt truck drivers and dedicated salt trucks don't typically get to see the fruits of their labor unless you give them the opportunity to drive back past sites that they've already performed. Everybody likes to see that what they're doing is accomplishing something. It's motivating, keeps people happy, it feels good. Plow truck drivers, loader operators that are moving snow easily get to see the fruits of their labor. They drive over the asphalt surface or the concrete surface, and when they get to the end of the row or the end of their run, there's a nice big clean piece of blacktop underneath them or a piece of clean concrete underneath them. When a salt truck driver gets done spreading Again, if we're not talking about sites that are huge, they're not typically going to get to see that salt start working because it takes anywhere from 30 to up to 45 minutes or an hour for most de-icing chemicals to start having an impact on the frozen surface, whether it's snow accumulation or ice accumulation after the fact. So when we talk about a star routing system from a salt perspective, again, the general sense or the general idea is to organize the sites in an order which provides the salt truck driver the opportunity to spread on a particular site and then drive by it before finishing the route at some point in their immediate future to get to another site to which they're going to apply a de-icing material. And again, that gives them that opportunity to see the fruits of their labor. It gives them that opportunity to determine how effective the material rates that they're applying are or the material that they're applying are. If you've got different opportunities or they have access to different types of materials and they may want to switch materials based on weather conditions, this will give them that opportunity to do it faster than waiting until the route's completely done and going back to start over, and so forth and so on. And it'll give them that opportunity to see if they missed anything for some reason, at that point. Now, the question I always get here, and I'm sure that many of you or some of you are thinking about it, is, okay, that's great, but how efficient is that? I'm not telling you to set an entire route of 25 sites up in this way and make a guy drive 25 miles round trip in a star pattern for all of those sites. Do the best you can to keep these tight, to keep them 2-3 miles tops in length, and even if you take a 25-stop route and break it up into 4 or 5 stars, it'll give you the same effect, it's going to give you the same opportunity, and you're still going to be able to maintain enough of that efficiency in the routing process to really make it worthwhile.
If you would like to purchase the CD-ROM of this or any other past SIMA web seminar, please visit the SIMA website at www.sima.org. This program is copyright 2010 by the Snow and Ice Management Association, with all rights reserved.